Now, the government's today announced an extra £1.3 billion to be given to the post office to improve its services.
It'll mean longer opening hours in a bid to reduce queues. More customers will have access to banking facilities, although proposals for a post office bank have been rejected, a decision attacked by postal unions who claim there could be more casualties among rural post offices. Malcolm Robertson's been to the Norfolk village of Mileham to gauge reaction to the plans.
For those like Judy Ryder, the village shop and post office in Mileham is a real lifeline. There were fears it would close along with many others, but when the previous postmaster retired, it was taken on by Norfolk Community Council and run as a community project. They do have banking facilities here. You can withdraw cash, you can deposit cash, but only if you're a customer of some of the banks. But within the last few hours, there have been new developments.
We're announcing today that RBS has agreed to work with Post Office Limited so that will bring to nearly 80% the number of current accounts that can be accessed at your local post office.
It was thought the government would set up a national post office bank, providing its own banking services, but that's been rejected.
Well, I think it is a disappointment for us, even if it is only a smaller village here, because it means that we now won't be able to try and secure that extra business that the additional bank facilities would have helped us with. Again, every transaction is good for us, and it secures the future of a community shop.
The government's plan to extend opening hours to reduce queues won't have much impact in a rural village like Mileham. They wanted more banking facilities.
Where do they turn for money? How do they get it? And we don't have a bus service out of this village, a public one. We've got private buses on 3 days a week. But what do they do?
Unions involved with the post office believe the government's plans are flawed.
With the reneging on the Postbank deal, that's going to withdraw further funding and finances out of the post office. So you're ultimately going to see, with the privatisation of Royal Mail and the lack of funding in post offices, that post offices will close across rural East Anglia.
But in Mileham, Dorothy Baker is perfectly content with the local service. She's never had the need to draw money from the post office.
I've never asked him for that, because he might take out our right cheques.
But you're happy with it?
Yes. Oh, yes, perfectly happy. Everything they do. Yes.
For Dorothy and many others here, they're just relieved that they have a post office at all. Malcolm Robertson, Anglia News, Mileham.
Next, the story of two friends, one a prince, the other a soldier from Suffolk.
Prince Harry and Lance Corporal Jonathan Woodgate became pals while both were serving with the Household Cavalry.
Jonathan was killed in Afghanistan in March this year, but Prince Harry never forgot him. And today he publicly remembered his former colleague, as Natalie Gray now reports.
Prince Harry remembers his pal planting a cross for his fallen friend. That friend was Lance Corporal of Horse Jonathan Woodgate, killed in Afghanistan in March. He was 26. They'd both served together in Afghanistan with the Household Cavalry. This is the first field of remembrance dedicated to the 342 men and women killed in Afghanistan, and it's fitting that it's at Wootton Bassett in Wiltshire.
Well, it was very emotional. I've cried more tears in these last few months than I've ever done, and I'll probably do it on camera now.
Jonathan Woodgate's home was the historical village of Lavenham in Suffolk. He was once described as the luckiest soldier in the British Army. He'd survived 4 tours of duty, even escaping unhurt from a friendly fire attack on his tank. But then his luck ran out just minutes from safety. He was waiting to board a helicopter to take him home from his last ever tour when he was blown up by a grenade. Here, friends and family watched today's events on television. Did he ever tell you stories about Prince Harry?
Yeah, but Prince Harry probably wouldn't appreciate me telling you those. You know, sort of, what shall I say, alcohol involved, perhaps.
Nick Joannides had been friends with Jonathan Woodgate since they were 7. Such was their friendship that he'd had the words of his dead pal's dog tag tattooed on his back. I will be strong and courageous. I will not be terrified or discouraged. What would Joe have made of it, do you think?
He'd have been absolutely chuffed. Absolutely chuffed. Couldn't be anyone better to lay the cross than one of the royals. Obviously, there were stories that were told about him. One where they, I know they ended up going bowling together. as a group, and he was very pleased to come home one day and show us pictures on his mobile phone that he'd managed to get of both the princes, just more to prove a point than anything else.
So Prince Harry publicly honours his fallen friend. A royal remembers. Natalie Gray, Anglia News.
Now, there were one or two bleary-eyed people in the region this morning, and Amy Garala from Peterborough was probably one of them.
Yeah, the star-studded Pride of Britain Awards were held in London, and Amy and coaches, England's only cheerleading squad, rather, for young people with disabilities, was ITV Anglia's Feel Good Factor winner.
Sadly, she didn't win anything last night, but she told us she was just pleased to be there.
It's been absolutely fantastic. You know, I wasn't even expecting to be nominated, so to actually be here tonight, it's just a real honour. So I should thank, you know, my parents, the carers of the superstars that have got me here.
That looks fun, doesn't it? And you can see the Pride of Britain Awards on ITV1 tomorrow at 8. Tissues at the ready, and we'll have more details of that on our programme tomorrow.
And there was recognition today for one of our other regional finalists in the Pride of Britain Awards. You may remember Melvin Perkins. He was the one that set up the Cycle Speedway Club at Heatherset in Norfolk 4 decades ago, and he's run it ever since. It's a brilliant achievement. He's been presented with an MBE. He was given the honour by the Queen at Buckingham Palace. We are very honoured today, aren't we?
Fantastic news. Now, Amanda's here with our weather forecast in just a moment, after we hear what the national news has for us at 12:30.
For the ITV News. Yes, that's all coming up. Right. Amanda is in the right place, clearly, for tonight's weather, right here inside in the warm with us. Don't blame you.
Next, won't you?
We'll be pushing you outside, actually.
But there's certainly been some lively weather out there these past few days, hasn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, just take a look at some of these pictures we have for you. Look at this. The very talented Nigel Pepper has captured the stormy sea crashing onto the Essex coast at Walton-on-the-Naze beautifully here. And on this shot taken by Keith Souter, you can see how the storms have taken chunks out of the cliffs here at Cove Hive in Suffolk. So some cracking pictures there, but will they be brave enough to go out with their cameras over the next few days? Let's take a look at the forecast. Much better day for taking pictures tomorrow. However, be warned, Thursday is looking awful out there.